Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening, or happy, actually, wherever in the world this finds you. I hope you're having a radiant day. My name is William Marsh. I'm the Director of Business Development, and I'm so excited that you're here listening in on this special Premier Insights webinar with Dr. Kelly Halderman, who is our clinical advisor here at Premier Research Labs. And we're really, really excited to dive into today's topic, which is the 12 hallmarks of aging. Which actually feeds into our brand new longevity panel that we are so excited to release to you all. It's in the final stages of development. So probably at the end of May, you'll be able to gain insights from that longevity panel. But it's important to understand the hallmarks of aging and really what that longevity panel is going to provide insights around. And so Dr. Kelly and I wanted to jump in and allow you all to gain some insights from her wisdom in regards to the hallmarks of aging and how that can feed into your insights around that longevity panel. Before we even get started tonight, I did want to just a brief disclaimer, as with all of our Premier Insights series, the information that we will be sharing tonight on this Premier content series is for the use of health professionals and health professionals only, and better helping evaluate whether to use PRL products and or partnered services. The statements made during this webinar have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The information provided in this webinar is for educational purposes and is not intended as a medical advice, a diagnosis, or treatment. Please note that dietary supplements that we may discuss in this presentation are not intended to treat, cure, diagnose any medical condition. So with that being said, we'll probably hopefully talk a little bit about product. I know we talk about some different strategies and solutions, but to introduce our guest speaker tonight, if you didn't catch the hormone lecture with Dr. Patty, this is maybe your first time ever listening in to Dr. Kelly Halderman. She is a clinical advisor at PRL who's focused on detoxification, methylation, and health optimization. She's a wealth of resources in the industry, and she's published several books. She's a published author called The Thyroid Debacle, and actually she's done research in the Journal of Aging, as well as doing influential work on detox pathways. Detox Phase 2.5, I think. Is that another book, Dr. Kelly?
Yep.
So with that being said, Dr. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for the awesome intro. So as Will said, I'm Kelly Halderman. I am one of PRL's clinical advisors. I stepped away from medicine and I don't practice. I'm not licensed to practice medicine, but I am an expert in nutrigenomics, and that means nutrition plus genetics. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, a little bit about that. And I also have a doctorate in clinical nutrition. So enough about me. I want to start out by asking you guys a question tonight. What if I told you that the secret to unlocking a longer, healthier life isn't just about what you eat, how you exercise, or the supplements you take, but in the very blueprint of your body, your DNA? Well, I guess if I heard that question, I'd say, well, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. Well, imagine a future where you don't just fight aging, but understand it at a genetic level based on your genes. A future where you don't guess at the best biohacks, but you precisely tailor them to your unique biology. So tonight I'm going to introduce you, as Will said, to the 12 hallmarks of aging. These hallmarks have given us a new lens to view longevity and the processes by which we age. And this research, although groundbreaking, it only gives us the why and the processes, but not the how. How can we use this information on how we age for us personally to guide us? And also, which of the 12 hallmarks should we be focusing on? I know where, if we know where our genetic weaknesses lie, if we know that information, then couldn't we tailor a longevity plan to us, which is great. And the answer is yes. And that's why we've taken this amazing science, 12 hallmarks of aging, one incredibly important step further. We've discovered the genes related to the hallmarks of aging and created 2 genetic panels that I will discuss later in the presentation that contain this information. When we have the knowledge of where our genetic weaknesses lie in the processes of aging, then we can optimize these 12 hallmarks in all of us. So Dr. Carlos Otin took the anti-aging and longevity research by storm when he published his paper, which is at the top there, in 2013 in the journal Cell. and it was entitled The Hallmarks of Aging. And then he followed that up in 2022 in his paper, Hallmarks of Aging, an Expanding Universe, which presented 3 more hallmarks. So we have 12 total. These hallmarks define the intricate biological processes of how and why we age. To me, this felt like being handed the keys to the biohacking universe when I read this, because there's no more guessing. Because if you ask people why we age, you'll get answers like my stressful job, my kids, my spouse. Not exactly wrong, but definitely not based on science, like really good science. And so this peer-reviewed published work by Dr. Oteen and his team, it gives us, again, that new lens on how to view how and why we age with specificity and, again, based on hardcore science. And I've read these papers, these 2 papers, dozens of times, and I always had the question in the back of my head, as any good biohacker does, which one of these is making me age the fastest? Where are my genetic weaknesses? That's why it's like the holy grail. And I searched and searched, but no one had taken Dr. Oteen's brilliant work and dug into the genetic polymorphisms that correspond to each hallmark that put us at risk. So we stepped up to the plate at PRL and we spent months digging into the peer-reviewed clinical data, because obviously innovation is in PRL's DNA. So we're going to get into those, but before we get into those genes, those SNPs, I want the PRL longevity panels. I want to go specifically into the hallmarks in more detail. So let's start with that. So the hallmarks of aging are divided into 3 groups. The first are the primary hallmarks. These are the fundamental drivers of cellular and molecular damage. And the first is genomic instability. So DNA, acting as our blueprint, is responsible for providing all the detailed plans on how every cell in your body should function. But the problem is that it's constantly under attack. Free radicals, air pollution, chemicals, pesticides, all expose our DNA to damage. And when that damage occurs, our cells just don't work as well. And this can mean big trouble, like diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, and even cancer. And according to the American Federation of Aging Research, your DNA is damaged 1 million times per day. That's a big number. But thankfully, so our DNA also encodes instructions on how to repair itself from those insults, but we're limited in how much damage our DNA can take. This repair can only go so far. So as we age, the damage to our DNA, it piles up, and then it hits a point where we have what's called genomic instability. The second under this grouping is called telomere attrition. So telomeres are those protective caps, like the ends of your shoelaces at the end of each chromosome, which is a long DNA molecule. Every time your cells undergo cell division, a part of your telomeres is removed, which makes them shorter and shorter every time they have to replicate. Eventually, our telomeres get so short and no longer existent that our cells are just unable to divide, and this can accelerate and does accelerate the aging process. The third is epigenetic alterations. Basically, aside from red blood cells and cornified cells, every cell in your body has DNA, and it's the same DNA. But how is it that a liver cell functions differently than a skin cell? And the answer to this lies in which genes found in your DNA are expressed. This is called your epigenome. An epigenome is a multitude of chemical compounds that provide instructions for your DNA, telling them what to do and what to make, what to express. So if DNA is the blueprint of your body, the epigenome is like the contractor. And the field of epigenetics studies how your behaviors, your habits, and your environment can change the way your genes work. For example, your diet and your environmental toxins can impact the epigenome. And these epigenic alterations can include deletions, mutations, and translocations, and they can all cause genomic instability. The fourth is the loss of proteostasis. So the word proteostasis means being able to maintain a stable production of proteins in your body. So a loss of proteostasis happens when our protein building machinery doesn't function properly. And this can mean big trouble because proteins are precious molecules in the human body. And during times where there's a lot of oxidative stress, a lot of inflammation, problems with proteins can occur more frequently. So balance is so important in this. There has to be a balance between protein production and protein degradation for good health. And that critical tipping point regarding our health in the process of aging occurs when replenishing good proteins no longer keeps up with depletion of the damaged ones. The second category of the hallmarks of aging are the antagonistic hallmarks. These arise in response to damage, but can be harmful if they are deregulated. So the fifth hallmark is deregulated nutrient sensing. So nutrient sensing pathways play a critical role in cellular metabolism, energy homeostasis, and longevity. Key pathways such as the insulin, IGF-1, mTOR, AMPK, and sirtuins, they regulate growth, stress resistance, and autophagy, which is cellular cleaning. Dysregulation of these systems contributes to metabolic disorders, aging acceleration, and increased susceptibility to age-related diseases. The sixth, and I'm sure you've heard of this one, mitochondrial dysfunction. So our mitochondria, often referred to as the powerhouses of our cell, they play a crucial role in energy production, cellular signaling, and metabolic homeostasis. But as we age, our mitochondrial function declines, leading to reduced ATP production, increased oxidative stress, and the accumulation of mitochondrial DNA mutations. So this dysfunction can contribute to cellular senescence, which I'll get into next, inflammation, and impaired tissue regeneration. And some key factors driving mitochondrial aging include, again, that excessive oxidative stress, decline in NAD levels, which affects sirtuin activity and mitochondrial biogenesis. So the seventh hallmark is cellular senescence. In 2024, I published a paper in the Journal of Aging on cellular senescence. So this is one of my personal favorites. And I think it's one of the most important hallmarks. There's so much money being poured into pharma right now on research and into the nutraceutical world on trying to develop senolytics. So that would be the wiping out of senescent cells. But basically, senescence is a normal part of aging, and the number of senescent cells increases in our bodies with age. So cellular senescence, again, it's not a bad thing, but it definitely has a dark side. It has a causative role in many conditions associated with aging because senescent cells secrete molecules called SASP factors. So that stands for senescent associated secretory phenotype. And those SASP factors are nasty, and they just spew out a lot of inflammagens and just spur on chronic inflammation. And again, just put us at risk for those age-related diseases. The third category of the hallmarks of aging are the integrative hallmarks. So these hallmarks integrate upstream damage, and they can drive aging and functional decline. So the eighth is altered cellular communication or altered intercellular communication. So aging disrupts the complex networks basically of signals between cells. So that can lead to chronic inflammation, immune system dysregulation, and impaired tissue homeostasis. This hallmark is driven by senescent cell accumulation, increased pro-inflammatory cytokines, so those SASP factors, dysregulated hormone signaling, and impaired extracellular vesicle communication. As inflammatory signals become persistent rather than transient, this phenomenon is known as inflammaging, and it can emerge, contributing again to all kinds of age-related diseases. Number 9 is stem cell exhaustion. So stem cells are responsible for tissue regeneration and repair, maintaining cellular turnover throughout life. However, with aging, stem cell function declines due to accumulated DNA damage, chronic inflammation, that telomere attrition, and epigenetic alterations. And basically, this leads to reduced regenerative capacity, impaired immune function, and again, increased susceptibility to all those diseases of aging. And the key drivers of stem cell exhaustion, again, include mitochondrial dysfunction, a pro-inflammatory microenvironment, and reduced autophagy capacity. Which brings us into autophagy. So the 10th is hallmark is disabled macroautophagy. So macroautophagy is a critical cellular recycling process. So I always think of it as, imagine tiny little vacuums are in your body and they're cleaning up all that cellular debris. That's basically what autophagy is. It's cellular cleaning and cellular recycling. And it declines with age. Everything just kind of gets worse as we age. So and again, it can lead to accumulation of those damaged proteins, dysfunctional cells and organelles, and toxic aggregates. And those all contribute to cellular stress and, again, the age-related diseases. But this process is essential. Again, autophagy is essential for maintaining cellular homeostasis. That's why I'm sure you're familiar with autophagy by now. Again, removing misfolded proteins and supporting mitochondrial quality control through mitophagy. So as macroautophagy becomes impaired, cells experience heightened oxidative stress, inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction, which again accelerates aging and puts us at risk for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And key regulators of autophagy, such as AMPK activation and mTOR suppression, become dysregulated with aging, which reduces the efficiency of that cleanup mechanism. Okay, moving on to the 11th hallmark, chronic inflammation. Again, something that we all know and we all fight against probably every single day. So chronic inflammation is often also referred to as inflammaging. It's definitely a key driver of aging and age-related diseases, and it arises from that persistent immune activation and imbalance between our pro and our anti-inflammatory signals and molecules. But unlike acute inflammation, which is a protective response, chronic low-grade inflammation disrupts tissue homeostasis, accelerates cellular damage, and contributes to many, many conditions. So key contributors include senescent cells secreting inflammatory cytokines. So again, those SAS factors, mitochondrial dysfunction. So we're going to be generating excessive ROS, reactive oxygen species, gut dysbiosis, and immune system dysregulation, and more things. And finally, the 12th hallmark is dysbiosis. So dysbiosis, again, something that we all know and are constantly trying to keep our guts in check. But this process, it's not a shocker, right? That this is contributing to aging, that it's a hallmark. So again, dysbiosis is the age-related imbalance of the gut microbiome. It can also be not an age-related. It can be from antibiotic use, from food choices, from environmental toxins, but it plays a crucial role, and we all know this, in systemic inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, immune system deterioration. There's that gut-brain connection as well, so neurodegenerative issues. And a diverse and well-balanced microbiome is absolutely essential for our nutrient absorption, our short-chain fatty acid production, immune modulation, and gut barrier integrity. However, aging leads to decline in beneficial microbes and also an overgrowth in pathogenic bacteria, and increased gut permeability, which we know is leaky gut, and heightened endotoxin, LPS, lipopolysaccharide levels. And that all drives our chronic inflammation, contributes to many diseases. Okay, we got through the 12. So now let's talk about the genetic panels, the premier longevity panels. So based on the 12 hallmarks of aging, as I talked about, we created 2 panels. We went deep into that research and looked at the clinical research. So we're not talking about the research that was done on a mouse or in a test tube. We're talking about the genetics that is based on the GWAS, the Genetic Wide Association study, and we are looking for genomics. We're looking for SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, that tie into each of these hallmarks. And so on the basic panel over on the left, we've identified, again, SNPs that correlate to genetic weaknesses in the categories of number 1 will include the first 2 hallmarks, so genetic instability and telomere attrition, and that is going to be called your biological age and adaptation. The second category in the basic is our mitochondrial dysfunction. And the third, chronic inflammation or inflammaging. And number 4 would be our dysbiosis, or microbial ecosystem. And then in the advanced category, we've identified SNPs that correlate genetic weaknesses in the area of, the first one is epigenetic clocks and age acceleration, which includes cellular senescence, altered intracellular communication, stem cell exhaustion, and epigenetic alterations. The second category in the advanced is autophagy. The third is proteostasis imbalance and cellular stress. And the fourth is nutrient sensing dysregulation. So our premier longevity panels, they offer a comprehensive analysis of your genetic profile to identify key factors that may impact your longevity and your overall health. So the basic panel examines over 60 genetic markers, while the advanced looks at over 70 markers. So those single nucleotide polymorphisms, and they're all related to the fundamental aging mechanisms that we talked about. The genetic analysis allows us to pinpoint your specific genetic predispositions and your vulnerabilities. Then we will evaluate your genetic profile across primary aging pathways. We'll highlight the areas of greatest concern that require attention, because I know that I have been known to carry around a suitcase of supplements thinking that I need one more thing to help with my longevity plan. And so I'm going to be one of the first people to actually use this genetic testing, because I really want to know, and I want you all to know that it is possible to know why we're aging. So we have the 12 hallmarks of aging, and then look and see where your genetic weaknesses are. And so if you have weaknesses in mitochondrial dysfunction, well, then we're going to give you a plan on what to do and how to deal with that. And then based on the insights, we're going to provide you with personalized nutrition from PRL. And again, that's based on clinical data and lifestyle recommendations, and they'll be tailored to address those unique genetic vulnerabilities. And additionally, we will suggest specific laboratory tests that can further explore the extent of any of your genetic weaknesses identified in those categories. So just like with the MTHFR gene, just because you have it does not mean that you need to take copious amounts of methylfolate. And so I am a big proponent of looking at genetic weaknesses and then confirming with laboratory evaluation. And so we added this in here so that if you see you have genetic weaknesses and chronic inflammation, we're going to give you suggestions on labs that you can do to help confirm that indeed those SNPs, those genes are expressing that, and you do need some support with that. So I think that's a really nice feature of that. And all in all, it's a holistic approach that empowers you to take proactive steps to optimize your longevity and your overall well-being. So let's review some examples, just some, because if we did them all, we would be here all night and tomorrow, of nutritional strategies if a hallmark weakness in the basic category is identified. So I like to think about these as your non-negotiables if you have genetic weaknesses, especially if you've confirmed that with laboratory testing in these categories. These are the kind of things where you really need that insurance policy to help with these, because they may be aging you faster in some of these categories. So for example, if you have genetic weakness in the first category of the basic panel, which is that biological aging and adaptation. So for example, that includes the gene ADG-RD1. So this gene encodes for an adhesion G protein coupled receptor involved in cell signaling. It is critical for maintaining healthy aging tissues. So then your non-negotiables would be products from PRL like our green tea capsules, our resveratrol, in our turmeric to help support this gene and others in this category. There are many, many others, but again, I wanted to give you an example, and I'm going to run through another couple of them, but we would be here for a long time if we went through all of the 60 of the polymorphisms. So under mitochondrial dysfunction, an example of a gene we have in our panel is a TFAM. So this gene is essential for mitochondrial DNA transcription and replication and plays a critical role in maintaining mitochondrial DNA stability and function. So if you have weaknesses here, you could definitely go looking, but using our laboratory recommendations, you can use mitochondrial testing, advanced testing as well. But some of your key support products would be our CoQ10, the PQQ, creatine is great, NADH, and of course, our favorite, magnesium, which we at PRL call one of our essential, those are our essential products. We must be taking our magnesium. It's involved in over 600 biochemical reactions in the body, so that's an important one. So under chronic inflammation, so the example we're giving is the IL-6R, which encodes the interleukin-6 receptor. This is central to immune signaling and inflammatory responses. So we want to support it with anti-inflammatories such as our amazing fermented ginger turmeric, as well as adding in some glutathione. Inflammacidin is awesome, and allocidin, again, because these could be your non-negotiables if you have genetic weaknesses in chronic inflammation, especially with the world we live in. Our DNA is already being insulted. There's so much reactive oxygen species and free radicals running around in a typical body. So this could be something where you need to really take a look at the labs if you'd like to confirm this and really get yourself on some really good products to help support your longevity. And then for the microbiome, so microbiome optimization, so we have the MCPH1, which encodes a protein involved in DNA damage and repair and cell cycle regulation. So its dysfunction may lead to a compromised intestinal epithelial integrity, indirectly promoting conditions favorable to gut dysbiosis. No bueno. So key nutrients to support this hallmark of aging would include our probiotics, our prebiotics like our aloe, and additionally other stellar products in our line such as our colostrum and our galactans. And of course, this is something where if you choose to do some gut testing, you'll really see if this genetic pathway is weak, and making sure that you're supporting this, because Hippocrates says all diseases begin in the gut. So got to mind our gut, and then we would know if we have genetic weaknesses on top of that. And then for all the categories, we'll also provide, again, we're going to provide those suggested labs to verify the weaknesses, as well as specific lifestyle interventions and dietary support on top of the nutritional products from PRL. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is a screenshot from our PDF from our report, and let's just take a look at the mitochondrial dysfunction weaknesses. So here you will see the title up here in the left-hand corner is mitochondrial DNA copy number susceptibility. So the copy number refers to genetic variations influencing the mitochondrial copy number, which affects cellular energy production, oxidative phosphorylation efficiency, and age-relating decline. So it's really straightforward. What you'll see is that you'll have the different SNPs. You'll have your RS ID number on there, and you'll be able to see what these genes are actually involved in. And rest assured, we worked with an amazing geneticist from Extending Me, and we went through all the clinical research. We got the genes that were the best fully supported by the literature, that these are indeed, again, genetics that aren't for research purposes. These are based on that GWAS data. And so here are just a few under this mitochondrial category. And I think for the practitioners, it's important to know you don't have to memorize. You don't have to memorize these SNPs. We give you a blurb to kind of give you an understanding. But really what we're going to do is we're going to show you. And if I had the report, there are several of these markers. And then with that, it's going to give you up here on the top right-hand corner, it's going to give you your risk assessment. So even though this is green right here and this is red, there are several others in this section that really put this person at risk, at medium risk, for mitochondrial dysfunction. And then also you'll see on your report, the up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see those lifestyle considerations, which we are adding to. So for mitochondria, we can look at red light, cold therapy, grounding, sauna use, exercise, of course, don't smoke. That's a great one. Should all know that by now. And so we're working on adding to the lifestyle considerations. And again, this report will be available in May, and we are approaching it. So we're just putting the final finishing touches on it. But again, I wanted to give you an example of what you're going to see. So you're going to see their risk, and then you're going to see lifestyle considerations, nutritional insights. You're going to get a list of labs to consider based on the genetic weaknesses. And this is really practitioner dependent. If you're a QRA practitioner, this is still going to work perfectly in your practice because you'll be able to hone in on some of these weaknesses and really help support your patient's longevity plan. And then on the bottom right, we'll always have the supplements to consider. Again, for mitochondrial dysfunction, we're looking at using our Premier PQQ because it also contains CoQ10, our Premier creatine, and our Premier glutathione complex. And now we're going to go into some of the SNPs in the advanced panel. So this is the first category is that epigenetic age acceleration. So here you can see the person's risk, this person's risk for their biological rate of aging is determined by epigenetic modifications, particularly DNA methylation patterns. And this basically reflects how quickly an individual's cells and tissues may be aging independent of external lifestyle factors. So I think that's really key as well. And again, you'll see many more genes when it looks at this category, seeing how this category contains many of the hallmarks. And so you're going to see many different SNPs over here. And then this person is looking at high risk in this intrinsic epigenetic age acceleration. So you will again then get the page following this will have the lifestyle considerations, which again is from the literature. We are not making this up. Everything is cited at the end of the report. And you'll have these considerations in here so that you can help them with nutritionally, with the PRL products, again, lifestyle considerations, and then as well, you'll have the labs to consider. And dietary nutritional insights beyond PRL products. So some really great, again, pulled right from the research on how to support this category in the advanced panel. And then again, this is from that epigenetic age acceleration. So we'll be looking at things, everything from biological age testing, because this is such a huge category. This epigenetic age acceleration, again, it includes many of the hallmarks of aging. And so we'd really want to be comprehensive. If they have some weaknesses here, especially if they're in the high risk, I would really want to dive in and see what is going on, from a holistic point of view, but also considering looking at those supplements to support that nutrition, to support this category, super important. So we're looking at our Premier fermented turmeric, our resveratrol, our allercaps, because it's very rich in quercetin, which is one of the best molecules, best nutrients for the age acceleration, the epigenetic age acceleration. And then our phytomethylate, again, we want to provide that methylation support for this category. And another category under the advanced is our nutrient sensing. So in the area of nutrient sensing, our advanced panel will cover genetic risks for lipid regulation, as you see at this slide right here. So this is very long chain saturated fatty acid dysregulation. We'll also have in the nutrient sensing category, we'll have risk for magnesium deficiency, CoQ10 deficiency, calcium deficiency, and vitamin D deficiency, as well as, again, insulin regulation. So at the bottom there, you're going to see fasting insulin dysregulation, which again is the predisposition. So we really want to look at this, look at what are possible genetic weaknesses that maybe or may not be expressing, and we want to support these, especially in this person. They have a high risk in this category, this VLSFA dysregulation. Again, that's lipids and fatty acids, which impact homeostasis, cellular signaling, and metabolic balance. And then down here in the fasting insulin, again, need I say more? How important is blood sugar? How important is regulating our blood sugar and our blood glucose? Yes, yes, yes. Very, very, very. So I feel this is one of the most important parts of this advanced panel, is really looking at this and making sure we get this in check. We don't want to be down the line 20 years and be diagnosed with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, when we could have seen this coming because of our genetic weakness, and we could have done many things to help support it. And then under the autophagy section of the advanced panel, so again, autophagy is cellular cleaning, and it includes 3 subcategories. So you have autophagy as your main category, and then the subcategories include autophagy activation potential, and then we have physical appearance aging risk. So this is named youthful aging potential, and mTOR, which is the opposing biological process of autophagy. So we'll look at all of those. And youthful aging potential is of low risk in this very, very, very lucky person, as depicted on this slide from their genetic report. If it wasn't, if they were at risk, you can see that they are in the green. We would have, again, nutritional recommendations, as well as suggestions for things like red light therapy and other things that can help support this category. So in summary, we got to the summary slide, so we're going to have a good time answering questions here. So your personalized Premier Longevity Action Plan is a comprehensive approach to uncover your genetic weaknesses in the hallmarks of aging, which aims to help you, your clients, your patients to stop guessing as to what is making us age faster. And instead of guessing, we're going to implement science-based nutritional support and lifestyle recommendations that are personalized. So it all starts with that genetic assessment. So we want to complete the Premier Longevity panels to identify specific aging vulnerabilities. And then based on those results, we can do some lab testing to confirm. And then we can look at using those targeted, those non-negotiable interventions, those nutritional interventions. So we encourage also the regular monitoring. So by tracking specific labs associated with your weaknesses, such as biological age markers and chronic inflammation markers, you can look at your functional improvements over time. You can see how you're doing. How did you start out with your genetic weaknesses? Were they expressing? Did you have issues? And then we're implementing in the recommendations from the panel. And again, we're tracking it. So we're making sure that we don't end up with neurodegenerative diseases and other things. We really want to get in the prevention. And this is what these panels offer us. And then again, you can adjust the interventions based on your responses to the nutrition that you're doing, the lifestyle recommendations that you are doing, in the dietary suggestions as well. And finally, we at PRL, Premier Research Labs, we're committed to optimizing your protocol by staying current with the latest longevity research. That's what my hobbies are, is looking into PubMed on the weekends. I know I'm a nerd, but we love it and we want to keep that up. And so as new evidence emerges, we'll provide that information to you so you can stay up to date with the most cutting edge science in this field, this very emerging, amazing field, important field of longevity. I have one more slide because I have an announcement, and then I'm going to turn it over to my amazing co-host, William Marsh. So here it is, you guys. We have accomplished an extraordinary goal this year to become an accredited natural wellness education provider with the American Association of Natural Wellness Practitioners. All of our internal staff are completing the rigorous training to become board certified premier nutritional specialists. And with this board certification, here, I'll make it so you can see the whole thing. With this board certification, we're also proud to offer education to our practitioners to earn CME, CEU, and board certification as well. So we are continuing to build our course content as well as having this particular program. And we're adding courses such as integrating nutrition into your healthcare practice. We're going to do a genetics series as well. So we are just an education powerhouse and hub. Look out for emails detailing all of this. But again, we are so excited to have this certification and to really offer this as well, this board certification as a premier nutrition specialist to all of you amazing practitioners. So with that, I will hand it back to Will to see if we got any questions.
Oh, I have to say you just dropped a bomb on the audience tonight with that one. That's so exciting.
I know, it's so exciting.
For those that may have missed it, that's a huge step forward for our organization, providing that accreditation. And if you ever have the opportunity to tour our facility at Austin, we actually hung it on a little plaque on a wall. We're all proud of that, and all the great job you did, Dr. Kelly, to get that position. So I know we'll probably dive deeper into the accreditation once that's formally launched, and that is coursework that everybody on this webinar and beyond can tap into and really learn. It's like the PRL philosophy in a nutshell, but it takes you through all that foundational knowledge that is so important, and sometimes we forget so often, but it is kind of the instrument of the practice, right, to bring that back to kind of cognition and see where you can work and act on. So with that being said, we are here for Q&A. We have a couple of questions here, but please feel free, for those that maybe were writing down your questions, post them there. We'd love to get to as many that we can since we're live. But while everybody's kind of chewing on maybe some questions, Dr. Kelly, for the audience, when you and I met for the first time, we talked extensively on how you've done so much genetic testing with your clients, right? And you've done so many different panels from probably lots of different organizations. Talk to me about what, if you're willing, what's really exciting and what differentiates this longevity panel from the rest, and that because you custom curated this with me, and this was like, it's your baby. So talk a little bit about the philosophy that was built into this to get people even more excited, because you went through the hallmarks of aging, but it's also the SNP selection and all the, because it's the genome is humongous. It's like, where do you start? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So really, when I started the presentation, I was not lying. When I read those papers, I was so excited, and it was like, this is amazing. We know why we age. Now what do we do? And it was like, the papers didn't say anything about what to do. And I'm such a practical person. Like, well, thanks, Dr. Oteen. You let us hang here, without having any practical information. And I thought, one day I am going to create the panel based on the genetics behind all those hallmarks of aging. And I could not believe that someone hadn't done it yet, really, because it's so revolutionary to say, we don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to fight this anymore. We can personalize this. We can know where our genetic weaknesses lie, and then we can go look for, again, those SNPs. Yes, the genome is massive, but that's why we selected to work with Extending Me for this, is because we were teamed up with geneticists who really assisted us in nutritionists, clinical nutritionists, of going through, this took so much time, you guys, going through all of the clinical data and making sure that we were selecting genes that weren't relying on mouse studies. Well, that's great that molecule, worked in a mouse, but in cancer research, we've seen where something works beautifully in a mouse, but yet it kills a human being. That's IL-2 story. That's a great story if you look that up. So we really looked it through and we curated and we went into even like the lifestyle recommendations. Everything's backed by science. Everything that we chose, it's backed by science. And when I started to look at, for example, the category of chronic inflammation, I looked at some of the genetics that we were looking at, and I thought, well, why wasn't this included? Because this other company included this SNP, and I looked into it. It's because it's not backed up by science. And
Mm.
I was like, well, we fixed that problem. We're not going to take a SNP that it is esoteric and yet it's for research purposes. Like this is real science. These are real SNPs based on, again, that GWAS, that data that comes from people that we know that we can really help people by targeting and delivering those precise, tailored interventions.
Yeah, that's so important. I think it's the scary facet of the genetics world where a lot of these, if you really take a dive into all the testing that's out there, it's kind of it's a dark box. It's a
Yeah,
black box,
Wild West.
and it's and companies are assembling panels and with maybe like filaments of authenticity or in terms of scientific merit. And so it's really exciting that we'll have this to offer because it is kind of that quality standard
That's
for
right.
longevity testing of the
Extraordinary,
yeah.
extraordinary. Well, we are extraordinary.
We are extraordinary. So I'm really excited for that. We had a question here from Jamie Connolly, just in regards to the longevity panel. There's a basic and an advanced. And so can you outline for the audience, the basic versus the advanced? Does the advanced actually include the basic, or is it actually an add-on for
Sure.
those?
Sure. So the basic, and I'll just fly back through my slides here. So the basic panel is its own panel, and it includes over 60 SNPs, and it assays for the categories biological aging and adaptation, which includes your genomic instability and your telomere attrition. And then it looks at mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and your dysbiosis. So that is one panel. And so then the advance is that second panel. So they're distinct from each other. And the advanced panel has in it 70 SNPs. So we're looking at more SNPs, and then we're looking at a little bit more in depth on that first category of the epigenetic section that includes a lot more hallmarks in it. So it's deeper. It goes deeper and it goes into some of those other hallmarks. So every hallmark is covered. And so we decided to split it up into two panels because it was just too much. So you can start with your basic and then put your nutrition and your lifestyle interventions into action, or you can just do both. And then you'll know every hallmark weakness and what your complete strategy should look like.
Yeah. It's kind of what level do you want to start with, right? A full in, or do you tiptoe in, right? I probably would
Right.
just full in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we're still finalizing the cost of that, right? Is that
That
that's
is correct.
yeah. So Kurt Hamilton, I know you had a question around the cost of those tests. It will be released next month, so we'll have all those finalized details. Recap this webinar, send it back out, so you can kind of refresh yourself on what the intention of that longevity panel is. The extending me is a very fast turnaround time, though. I can't remember, Dr. Kelly, do you know their logistics off the top of your head?
I don't want to hold them to it, but
Yeah,
if I
we'll confirm that.
to be determined, right? We'll have that important information. We'll send out as soon as we have a cost, turnaround time. We'll definitely get that out to you guys as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's a great question, though. And I know Kurt also had a question around development of product lines and around longevity. And I know you said, hey, disregard because we showcased some products around longevity, but we're excited. Dr. Kelly and I and the team have actually we're going to be working on some pill packs and some customized packs that you can actually use for different, there's an essentials pack, if you're really looking at longevity and just overall health that you can position to kind of cover your basis as a practitioner with a client. And then as we kind of continue to develop out our content and our education around the longevity panel, the goal is additional protocols and packs. Because the fun thing is, and I think it's really exciting, the majority of there's a lot of products in the PRL line that are already existing that cover, like Kelly already showcased, these hallmarks of aging, right? So, if you look at the 12, resveratrol, curcumin, quercetin, right? Probiotics, vitamin D, polyphenols, right? Those really encompass, and of course you want to be targeted on which, different nutrient goes to which different hallmark, but we have like a very core foundation longevity essentials package already. It's just sharing that information with y'all. So more content to come, but know that it's there. We have an anonymous attendee that asked the question, in addition to the OAT, are there any other tests recommended for genetic testing? Off your top of your head, Dr. Kelly.
So are they asking that they'd like to do a more general panel, like a more comprehensive panel for like the MTHFR or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It just any other test recommended for genetic tests, like any other test that right now, we're not recommending any other genetic tests right now, but Dr. Kelly, any thoughts or insights?
Yeah, I think that our plan was to start with the longevity panels and then build our repertoire from there. Regarding a more comprehensive, that is in the works, but as of right now, looking at the longevity, that's where we're at right now. So down the line, I think we'll be putting in more of a generalized foundational panel. But that would be more probably the latter part of the year.
Yeah. So just know, and there's even more information. We have another webinar on genetics Thursday. So tap into that option for you to maybe evaluate too for your clinic. So let's see. Any other questions we have here? And I know, Hope, you had to ask kind of the same question as Kurt on the price and the logistics and everything for the panel. So we'll make sure that you get that information once that comes off. Then it looks like Barb has the question, or it's a comments and question. So I'll kind of abbreviate it here, Barb, but we're excited with you for the panel. Obviously it's easy to get overwhelmed with all this information. And so educational support guide, I think kind of to answer and make it a little bit more concise and digestible, because when you dive into genetics and when you're looking at the panels and how to best prioritize recommendations, we definitely, that accreditation program is going to be really exciting because it's a great step forward, for you, Barb, maybe. But we're also looking to do a lot of content over the next, just the remainder of the year. And so, Dr. Kelly, I know this won't be the last time we see you by any means. And so taking deeper dives and trying to help you, trying to assess that landscape, I think, Barb, is really our goal, right? Because not only are we looking at genetics, but we're also going to be looking at functional blood markers and going into additional lab testing and developing out coursework there. And so just know that, as we start to give you more information, it's our job to create kind of that philosophical hierarchy that you, the practitioner, can then, use as kind of your guiding rope of how do you make recommendations. And of course, there's also quantum reflex analysis, which is very big for our organization. And so that might be something you additionally overlay with all these testing modalities to really understand the client. So we're really excited because the goal is, yes, we're not going to just say, hey, here's a longevity panel, go have fun. it's like, no, let's help you really develop those protocols that you can really support with. And we've had two questions on this one. I'll leave this, let you go first, Dr. Kelly, and then I'll share my reflections. We've had two questions on methylene blue for longevity. And it's not a product that PRL currently carries, but I know if for all the biohackers in the audience, they're probably taking it right now. Are they interested in? So what are your reflections right now on methylene blue?
So methylene blue is a very good PR campaign. And so I think that a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon for methylene blue. And I follow the work of Dr. Chris Masterjohn, and he really does an excellent job in a recent blog post on breaking down who would benefit from methylene blue and who will not potentially. And he does a really good job of explaining the mechanism of action. And so, I mean, to break it down from what I took from from his really deep dive into it, but he really picked it apart really well, is that you really shouldn't need methylene blue. You really shouldn't need that. And if you do, there's some deep mitochondrial issues. And so for a person who's, doing the triathlon and they're already in great shape and all that, it might not be doing what we think it's doing. But I think the jury's still out. I mean, I've used methylene blue for a couple years on and off, didn't really notice anything. Definitely didn't buy the fish tank cleaner on Amazon when I got it from a pharmacy. So I think that people really need to be careful about sourcing, as we at PRL are very aware of quality. So that's actually the first thing that I worry about with methylene blue is the contaminants and quality of it. But it's definitely something that, we, since the science is still out, and I really would encourage you to read that article from Dr. Masterjohn. It's not something that I would put on as a recommendation for mitochondrial dysfunction, especially now with the more research coming out on it. It's very specific. So.
Yeah, echoing the same sentiment. It is a dye. It's been used as a dye, right? There's aspects of quality. It is highly marketed. And I think the beauty is there's some really good natural options, especially if you're looking at a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, rhodiola, curcumin, resveratrol, quercetin, which we've talked about, green tea. Those are all natural options that have a lot of other activity and the other different live active nutrients that kind of go in different directions. And so keep in mind that while yes, there's the fad and, it's cool to see your tongue get dyed blue and, what's coming out the other end blue as well, maybe, but there's natural options that can really maybe have a similar effect and really complement more so. So just words of wisdom. Yeah. And then Barb, also there was a question around magnesium 3 and 8. We are evaluating that. We're actually looking at a potential formula. It's in R&D right now, so I won't make any promises it comes to fruition, but know that we are aware of 3 and 8 and its potential applications. So
excellent nutrient.
Excellent nutrient, yeah.
Um,
so yeah, I think that's our last round of questions. Dr. Kelly, was there anything you wanted to kind of close us off with shares or thoughts?
I think my final thought is that this report, we made it very easy to digest. So you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to understand every SNP and what it does in the body. We just put that there for your reference, but really we're going to break it down to make it very easy and practical for you as practitioners to really, on that page where we're looking at lifestyle recommendations, nutritional, and dietary. So that's really simple. It's like the gist of what you're supposed to do. So I'm a very practical person, so I wanted it to not be complicated. So you will indeed find out that it is very easy to use, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, we really are. It's a step forward and kind of creating a whole functional paradigm along with our energetics paradigms to really give you a full picture and a roadmap and make hopefully your jobs a little easier, because y'all are doing the good work of really helping your clients better understand how they can achieve their health goals. And so, Dr. Kelly, I'm so excited for this first entry into this exciting adventure, and for all those that tuned in, thank you so much. It's just our pleasure and our honor to support you.
Thanks, everyone.
So please reach out if you have questions. We will share, of course, a recording link to all this, but if you have thoughts, feedback, you can email myself at wmarsh@prlabs.com. If you have content that you would like to share with our practitioner audience, feel free to reach out as well. Love to have you on. And stay healthy, stay radiant, and we'll look forward to seeing you very soon.
Between the stress at the office and juggling my kids' soccer schedule, my energy was running on empty. Then, I found Premier Research Labs, and they've been trusted by health practitioners for more than 35 years. Now, I have the energy I had 10 years ago. I'm finally sleeping through the night, and with their digestive support, I've even shed a few pounds. Plus, Premier Research Labs products are made in the U.S. with top-quality natural ingredients and cutting-edge science. I found them on Amazon, but you can learn more about them if you visit prlabs.com today and start your journey to feeling your best.